So in my last video, I showed y'all how I made one of my Halloween costumes, but I actually made two this year. And I know that Halloween is over, but I love Halloween. It's my absolute favorite holiday, so please allow me to indulge in this a little bit longer. So for this video, I'm going to show y'all how I made my other Halloween costume, which was a butterfly. So I'd been seeing wings going around the internet that were made so that they slide into the back of whatever you're wearing, and it looks like you just like naturally have wings coming off of you. And I've been wanting to try that for a long time. And so that is what we're going to be doing today, is making some wings as well as a base dress. That part's not quite as important, but we're going to be focusing primarily on how I made the wings in this video. So enjoy this last little bit of Halloween spirit before we move on to other holidays. So for this outfit, the most important thing is the wings. So I'm just going to make a very basic black velvet base dress, and I'm going to be using the same pattern that I used for the Doja Cat Met Gala recreation. I have a video of that as well. So if you have questions about that pattern, I go through exactly how I made it in that video. The only change I'm going to make here is that I'm going to make the back flat, and then I'm just going to make the dress a halter so that the wings can stick into the back. I saw this image on Pinterest and just really loved it and wanted to try and recreate something in real life. So I've never made fairy wings before. That's definitely the biggest focus of this video, is making the wings. So the dress, I'm just going to throw it together real quick. So I'm going to make that really fast, and then we'll check back in when it's time to make the wings. Okay, so after quite a bit of sewing, we have a base dress done. I'm really happy with this, and this fabric's been in my stash for years, so I'm glad that I was finally able to use it up. I didn't buy any new fabric for this, everything I already had, so that's awesome. So I did go to Michael's. Now that the dress is finished, I want to do a little bit of experimentation. So this is the fabric that I got for the actual wings themselves, and I was hoping that I could get an organza, but I wanted to support a new local fabric store that we have here in town, so I just wanted to pick something that they already had. And this is more of a chiffon, so it's much slinkier, which I think will be very beautiful with the wings because it will blow in the wind, but it needs a little bit more structural integrity, I think. So I'm actually going to do some experimentation. I'm going to see what happens with this fabric if I try to glue two layers together. And then I also got several colors of acrylic paint and then some copper foil, because I would like to use paint and foil to, you know, actually give it a butterfly wing pattern. I might get more colors of paint, but I didn't want to get too crazy before I even knew if the acrylic paint was going to work on this. So I'm just going to cut off some little scraps, and we're just going to see what happens, because I have an idea of what I want to do, but let's just see if that's actually going to work first. Okay, I can already tell right off rip that that is not gonna work. The fabric's just way too thin, and the glue honestly just shoots right through it, so it doesn't stick to it, so then it can't stick to the other piece of fabric. So I'm gonna try something else. I'm gonna get spray starch. That way I can just use one layer of the fabric. Hopefully it will give it a little bit more stiffness, because this I think is just not stiff enough. But before I do that, I guess I should probably see if I can paint it first. I'm wondering if the starch will affect the being able to paint it, but I don't think that it would make a difference. It might actually help, because my biggest thing, the reason why I'm not sure if the paint's gonna work is the same reason why the glue didn't work, is that the fabric it's just like a mesh, and I'll just go through it. And so that's my concern with the paint, is that it will not stay very clean and crisp. Like, it'll start to bleed, or it will just go through the fabric because there's not very much of it. So I'm gonna run out and get spray starch and see if that gets us closer to what we're looking for. Okay, it's a couple days later. I went to get the starch, and when I got home, I was really hungry, and I had a snack, and yeah, derailed my day. So let's talk about what we've got going on here. Also, I got a new tattoo. Hello. So this is the piece of fabric that I sprayed the glue onto, and then this is a little scrap of fabric that I did test the starch on. Unfortunately, the starch is not going to work because it didn't really change the texture of this fabric too much. But I wasn't expecting this, but the piece that I had sprayed the glue on did dry, of course, and this is a lovely texture. I don't know if you can see, it's not much stiffer, but this is giving more of an organza feel versus like the really flowy chiffon that it was before. And an added bonus, if I spray them down with glue, is that it doesn't fray, which this particular fabric frays like crazy. So that would be an added benefit of just spraying them once over with glue and then letting it dry. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna use regular, this is just Elmer's multi-purpose spray adhesive. Once I cut out the shapes of the wings that I want, I'm just gonna give it a nice coat of this and let it dry. The only thing we haven't done yet is I need to test and see how paint will take to this. So that will be my first step, is just seeing whether or not I can paint this, if I need to switch to a different kind of paint. So let's see how that goes. Okay, I think that that is gonna work. So I did a couple little test patches here, and it does go through the holes, but I think that that will just make it more, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Transparent, I guess that's the word. So I think that I'll be able to make that work. It'll just not be like as intense as maybe I want it to be. I'm not really sure. This is all an experiment. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move on from that. I'm going to make my patterns for the actual wings so I can figure out size and shape and all that good stuff. And then I need to actually like sketch out what I want them to look like as far as like the pattern on them, because everything has, like, the top wing has to match the other top wing and the bottom has to match the bottom. So I need to figure out exactly what sort of pattern I want to do. Let's work on the patterns. To start making the wing patterns, I very roughly measured how long I wanted each piece to be, and then I drew a straight line at that length just to give me something to go off of. Drawing is really not my strong suit. It's not something that I super excel at. So my method when I have to do something like this is just to keep drawing and making mistakes until you refine the shape that you want, and then erase anything that doesn't work. This is definitely trial and error and shaping and reshaping until I like the way that it looks. And I did refer back to the images that I saved on Pinterest several times just to make sure that I was getting the shape correct. So don't rush this. It just takes a little bit of time, but then you can erase everything that doesn't work. And once the general shapes were created, then I went in and drew in the patterns, and I was even more clueless for this step than I was for making the general shapes, because again, just like Drawing is really not my thing, but the reference photos helped a lot, and I really thought of this as like a trial and error thing, so if anything just didn't look right, I would just erase it and start over. Once I got the patterns all set, it was then time for me to prep the fabric, and I did decide that it would be easier for me to do the spray glue on one big piece of fabric and then cut the shapes out later. So to do that, I did decide to hang the fabric from some Christmas lights that I have on my patio. This just made the most sense because I just needed outdoor space and for it to be hanging so that it wouldn't stick to itself while the glue was on it. This actually worked surprisingly well. Once it was time to transfer over all the patterns from my paper pattern to the actual fabric, it really came in handy that this fabric was see-through, because I just laid the wing right down onto my pattern and just sketched over all of my lines with a pencil. It was very faint, but it was enough for me to see where I needed to paint. Once all the lines were copied over, I was ready to start painting, and I started with the black parts, and I actually ended up taking black paint and mixing it with brown just to make the black a little bit softer for this part. And I really used those sponge applicators to my benefit. They had a nice sharp edge, and I used that to go around all the edges of everything just to make sure that I wasn't going over the lines. y'all know I couldn't go without adding any shine to this, so I went back in and instead of using the copper leaf that I originally purchased, I swapped it out for some gold paint. They didn't have the glue I needed for the leaf, and I found this paint product and I thought it would be easier, and this was an amazing product. Definitely recommend it if you need to paint something gold, but I went in and just added some of this very lightly to the colored parts of the wings. Oh my gosh, after 3 or 4 days of just painting what felt like nonstop, the wings are finally done being painted. So now, final step is I need to make the metal frame. So I have armature wire. I have 20 feet of armature wire that I got at Michael's. So I think this is going to be pretty straightforward and simple. I'm just going to measure how long I want the pieces to be on the wings, and then I'm going to build like a little build. That's a very strong word. I'm going to bend it into a like a U shape that will go down into the back of the dress, and then that's how the wings like stay into the outfit. So I think this should be pretty easy. So let's just give it a shot and see how it goes. After measuring across the top of the smaller wings, I then marked on my wire where I wanted to bend it, and then just did a sharp bend, and then measured 7 inches down, 4 inches across, and then another 7 inches up to create my U shape. That's what's gonna actually get tucked into the back of the dress. This was very, very simple and straightforward, and the wire is super, super easy to cut with just the most basic wire cutters. And the measurements I chose for the U shape are completely made up and arbitrary, so feel free to make it smaller or bigger depending on what you need for the outfit that you're making. That's just what worked best for me. And then to make the frame for the larger wings, I don't want the wire to go all the way down the whole side of the wing. I just need it to be long enough for me to articulate the wing in the direction that I want it to be. So I think I measured out about 18 inches and then bent that same U shape into this frame. Once that was completed, I took that frame and butted it up against the frame for the smaller wings and used masking tape to stick it together. And finally, to attach the frame to the actual wings, I just used hot glue right along the tops of the wings and bent the wire into shape as I went along to make it align with the edge. And with that, Halloween is officially over in my house. So I am super happy with how this turned out. I love the wings so much. I had seen videos of people making these and it seemed pretty straightforward and simple, but of course, when you actually do something in real life versus watching a video, it's completely different. So it really was as easy as you think it is. So if you've been wanting to do something like this, highly recommend just trying it. I'm super happy with the scale of the wings. I thought that was going to be my biggest downfall, was that the wings were just so big, but honestly, because the frame is so simple to make, you can really make these wings as intricate and large as you want, just within the confines of the actual armature wire itself. Like, I don't think it could support something super heavy, but I think you could do like 3 wings on each side if you wanted to, and that would be perfectly feasible for this type of wire. So the options are really limitless, and I would love to make more wings in the future. Like, this was just a first crack out of the box, but I would really like to make more again later down the line. So I hope they all enjoyed this. If you have any questions about the process or anything like that, happy to answer them, and I will see y'all on the next one. Bye.